Hello and good day. This is Punchline. We are First News Nation. On Punchline, we discuss national politics. The political scene keeps getting interesting, be it from the federal or state levels. We always have interesting conversations to bring to you. We thank you very much for joining us on all our social media handles. Those of you who have gone to respective social media handles, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, at First News Nation, and enabling notifications on all these platforms. So every time we have a new episode of the program, you're always the first to know. If you haven't done that, please do as you see here. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Go ahead and follow us, even on our online radio, News Nation FM. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to talk about airlines and more interesting stories about that after this short break. You're welcome back. It's still Punchline. We are First News Nation. Let's go straight into the meat of the matter. Enugu State Government, a brand new government that was just inaugurated in the month of May, 29th of May 2023, led by Barrister Peter Mbah, has declared that they will have interest in opening a new airline to be called Enugu Air. Well, the reception of that hasn't been so favorable to the state government. That declaration was made by the Commissioner of Transportation, Obi Ozo, and he's also known for Kobo 360, a transport and logistics company. Well, the commissioner's appointment came with a lot of accolades that Governor Peter Mbah was picking the right people for right positions. But this declaration has put it in another light. Enugu people, especially residents of Enugu, whether they be from the PDP, the Labour Party, the APC, there's a common feeling that the state government has missed this particular one. The Enugu Air, according to the Commissioner of Transportation, is supposed to commence in 15 months. That means a year and 3 months. So if you count, let's say, a few months to the end of this year, we're looking at the year 2025, Enugu Air will be up in the air. Now, you don't really blame a lot of people, especially. What you are considering is the fact that Enugu Air, whether it is going to actually work. Remember that the last time we heard of any brand having air at the end of it was a serious issue for Nigerians. Nigeria Air was also a hot button issue as at this year, 2023, especially from the month of January to the month of May. We heard about Nigeria Air. The then Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, had promised that before May 29th, the Nigerian Air will be in the air. Well, Nigerians looked up in the air. Well, all we could see is air, no Nigeria Air. However, people are not interested anymore about where the whereabouts of these planes are, even though it was just one plane we saw that was inaugurated. And from there, the plane disappeared into thin air. There's so much air around this. And the incoming Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has said he's going to put pause to the Nigerian Air project. I don't know why you're putting pause to something that doesn't exist. However, that's not the conversation. Today we're talking about Enugu Air and the response of Nigerians to the possibility of this coming through. Now, some people are saying if you're trying to put Ibom Air as the reason why you think a Enugu Air will work, that you're making a big mistake. However, we're going to go into some research. Let's talk about airports and airlines, okay? Let's start with airlines, and we take you back to the year 2009. In Imo State, the then governor, Ikedio Hakim, had promised to start a new airline for the state, a state-owned airline that will be called Air West Limited, clean and green. He claimed that 3 airplanes were bought for that particular reason. And that story was in 2009. We didn't hear about the planes. The plane never took off. Ikedio Hakim could not even get a second tenure. His second tenure bid could not even go up in the air. 2017, in the same state, Rochas Okorocha decided he was going to continue from where his predecessor, Ikedio Hakim, had stopped, and decided that he was going to launch an Imo Air. It was going to be called Imo Air. He said, he took delivery of one plane, and it was going to be managed by the Dana Airline group. Now, we saw only one plane. It did not even last for 1 year. It was expected to fly Lagos, Abuja, Benin, Sokoto, and they were partnering with Dana Air. The claim was that this airline was going to boost the economy of the state. It could not even boost its own existence. It didn't last up to 1 year. We didn't hear about it. Imo Air went in the air. 2017. 2020, Cross River State Government decided they too wanted to have their own airline. They called it Cali Air. Who was the governor of the state? Of course, Professor Ben Ayade. And he said they were going to have Cali Air, C-A-L-L-Y Air. It was also to be managed by the same Dana group. This time around, Cali Air was supposed to be in the air. They had some aircraft that were in the aero contractor fleet, but Cali Air could not see the light of day, couldn't even see the skies, not to even talk about flying for long. Cali Air has disappeared. In the year 2022, just last year, governors of the northeastern states decided they were going to launch an airline. Yes, the northeastern governors concluded a plan to establish a commercial airline for the region, and questions arose. It is the most insecure region in Nigeria, the northeastern part of Nigeria, ravaged by Boko Haram, ravaged by Fulani herdsmen, ravaged by all kinds of terrorist groups, and the governors believed this was the best thing to do. In fact, they said technical and financial hurdles were going to be surmounted, then they will launch the air. So how many people are going to fly into the northeastern region? What is the number of people who even fly? How many flights can you get from Lagos or Abuja to any state in the northeastern part of Nigeria? Those were examples of airlines that actually were supposed to fly but never did. But in 2019, Ibom Air took Nigeria by storm and approached it with a different strategy. Today, Ibom Air is arguably one of the best airlines in Nigeria. How they're doing it, we don't know. Is it totally run by the state government? I don't think so. However, maybe because of the success of Ibom Air, Enugu State Government feels they also want to try an airline. Let's talk about the airports in Nigeria and tie everything together. In Nigeria, we have about 43 airports. 15 out of those 43 are built by state governments. 15 out of the 43 are built by state government. We have 5 international airports, 1 state-owned airport. The international airports include Abuja, listen to this, Anambra, Ebonyi. Let me stop laughing. I'll say it again. Abuja, Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, Ilorin, Kaduna, Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Sokoto. Yes, those are the international airports we have according to FAM. Those are the international airports we have in Nigeria. Let's look at how much was used to make these airports. After this break, we'll come back. You're welcome back. It's still Punchline. We're talking about airports and states who have planned to have airlines. Some of the airlines could not even take off. Some of them don't even have the space to take off. And some others never saw the light of day. And Enugu Air is the subject of our conversation. How Enugu State Government wants to start an airline in the next 15 months. Many people have raised concerns whether this is what Enugu people want. But just by the way, it's almost the same thing as going to wash a tunnel and the road and the tunnel is bad. Isn't it better you actually fix the road before you wash the tunnel? Because the dirt on the tiles in the tunnel were actually caused by the bad road. So when you now wash the tunnel and leave the bad road, well, you get the picture. Enugu people understand what I'm saying. Before you wash the tunnel, fix the road. Simple logic, simple. But that's not the conversation today. Let's talk about airports. How many airports we had. I've talked about that. And the fact that even the MD of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, came out to say that most of the airports in Nigeria today are not viable. President Buhari's administration, as well as President Goodluck Jonathan's administration, planned to sell off most of the international airports. They were going to give them out on the public-private partnership, PPP. And I think that's what made President Jonathan decide to refurbish or fix or build new terminals for the international airports so they could be sold off. President Buhari's administration promised to sell off the airports. They didn't. Rather, the Minister of Aviation was busy creating airlines that don't exist. And now, we have not heard what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to say. Are we finally going to sell off the airports, especially the 5 international airports? Aside that, there are other airports who have added themselves to the list, but they call themselves international, but I don't know how international they are. Now, listen to this. There are several state governments that have built airports, and I want to tell you how much they earmarked to build these airports and the state of these airports as we speak. Let's start with Ebonyi State. 36 billion naira was budgeted to create the airport in Ebonyi State with the colorful airports that you see, yet we don't know if any flight has come in at all. Anambra State, 10 billion naira, 10 billion was used to build Anambra State Airport. Well, it looks, it's like there was money before, and then the governor of the state, Willie Obiano, decided to add extra money to build the airport. That's why it's cheap. It's actually the cheapest of all the airports we have here. Bayelsa State Airport, 70 billion naira was used to build that airport. 70 billion naira was used to build Bayelsa State Airport. I don't know whether, some people might look at it as the topography. It is soil, watery, land, water and all that, swampy. Maybe that's the reason why 70 billion naira was used to build the airport. Do people use the airport? Well, I don't know. I really don't know. Let's move over. Ekiti State Airport, 20 billion to build the Ekiti State Airport. The previous governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, decided to launch the airport in the twilight of his administration. As a matter of fact, it was just a few days before he left government that he inaugurated the airport. We don't know who landed the airport, which airline has actually landed at the airport, who uses the airport at this point in time. 20 billion spent for Ekiti State Airport. Now, this is the one that's interesting. 40 billion naira was spent on the particular airport in a state that is unfortunate never to have good roads, Abia State. 40 billion naira to set up an airport in Abia State. Abia State is sandwiched between River State, Port Harcourt International Airport in Amagwa, and we have the Sam Mbakwe Airport in Owerri in Imo State. Abia State is just in between. But Abia State spent 40 billion naira to build an airport. What happened to the airport is abandoned. Osun State spent 40 billion naira to build an airport. It's not complete. It's incomplete. It's an uncompleted structure. Airports need about 300 million naira a month, according to FAN, to actually operate. So if you see a lot of airports that don't work in Nigeria, it's because it's not viable. What is the buying power of the people at the airport? Like the question about roads, why would you have an airport in Anambra State when Anambra is sandwiched between 3 states that have airports? Asaba has an airport, Owerri has an airport, and Enugu has an airport. The only thing you should have simply done is to make sure the roads to the airport work. If you even wanted to think creatively, you build trains that could take people and land them at the airport. No, Nigerians don't like anything concerning trains. Abia State wanted an airport. Ebonyi State has an airport. But from the first day, the governor of Ebonyi State, now Minister of Works, we're talking about the chief, Dave Umahi, launched that airport. We have not heard of any flight in that airport. Between Enugu and Ebonyi State, it's less than 1 hour, 45 minutes or 2 hours maximum. You should have built a good road or a train or something that leads you from this airport to that airport. But are these airports viable? Not to talk of the airlines that we have today. Many of them are suffering under bad economy, many of them forex, many of them for many reasons. The other candidates for governorship in Enugu State, Frank Weke Jr., came out and said, this is the reason why you shouldn't have an airport. It's not necessary to have an airport, an airline, Enugu Air. What's the basis for having Enugu Air. Even the state government right now had just signed an agreement to fix the roads and open a new Enugu city that nobody really heard about. But the roads in the city, the roads in the state need urgent attention. That's not being done. We're thinking about pulling out Enugu Air. We don't know how many days are left for water to go around Enugu, as promised by the Enugu State Governor, Barrister Peter Mbah. Yet, in 15 months, Enugu wants to open its own airline. But I don't think it's something that's sensible. You have to crawl before you walk. And Enugu State Government, I think, have better things to do, better investments to make than this idea. Try and master the game of transportation within the country, within your state. Because even Entraco, the Enugu State Transportation Company, you don't even have a fleet. You don't have a fleet at all. So I think we should start from somewhere before we get to where you want us to get to. An airline is not something we should be thinking about in the next 10 years, 15 years. Is it possible to make Enugu a hub for airline companies? Is it possible that you could go and market to airline companies to use Southeast as your hub? Enugu Air is about to go international. Is Enugu the regional hub of Enugu Air? What happens to other airlines? Can they come to Enugu? Can they funnel into Enugu instead of going to Lagos, instead of going to Abuja? So I think it's best we think first of crawling before we walk, because right now it's not working. It's not an idea that we should even be thinking about right now. So I think someone needs to have a rethink, or maybe it's a bright idea someone was just so excited about. I'm going to watch and see how that goes. A lot of work for the Enugu State Governor to do. A lot of people are looking at him for the water situation, the insecurity situation, looking at him for the housing issues, the road especially. But the Enugu Air does not sit well with a lot of indigents, a lot of residents, and a lot of Nigerians together. That's the question we're having. Some airlines have been grounded recently because of lack of maintenance and all that. Can Enugu Air see the light of day, or will it end up as Imo Air, Cali Air, Air West Medium, whatever, Northwest, North Central, Northeast Airlines, or the all-powerful and all-invisible Nigerian Air? Your comments are more important, so drop them in the comment section below. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm still Sammy Ajufo. Thank you. As much as we can, we'll bring you more reports that are breaking and are interesting within the political space. Do all we can to stay safe.